Welcome to the CADWOLF tutorial on two-dimensional plots and charts. CADWOLF has the ability to create and display all of the standard types of charts. This includes everything from lines and splines to columns and bars, pies and donuts, as well as heat maps, bubble charts, and what we call combination charts. The purpose of this video is not to discuss the specifics of how each of those types of charts is created and edited. This video simply introduces charts in general in CADWOLF and discusses some of the options available for all charts. So let's start with a simple document where we have an X and Y vector created. We click on the icon to create a 2D chart, and we are immediately presented with the edit window for charts. As you can see, there are 4 basic sections in the chart edit window. There's the option to select the chart type, the specific item which you're going to edit, the area where you add or remove instances of that item, and then the options for editing whatever item you're looking at. We'll discuss these here in a second. Looking at the items to edit in the drop-down, you can see that you can edit the data, the format of the chart, the X and Y axis, as well as the bands, the lines, and the text within the chart. So let's go back and look at data. We add an instance of a data set, select it, and then we can edit the data properties. We enter the X and Y variables that we had created on the document previously, and as you can see, the chart updates with that data. We can simply edit the title of that data set, hit return, and you'll see that the title updates in the legend as well. You can also click on the Appearance tab and edit a lot of the properties of this particular data set. We won't go into this here because we cover this in the tutorial on line charts. As you can see, you can change the type of chart, and the data set that is already present converts over. We can also add a second data set, select it, and then edit its properties. And what you can see is that you don't have to have data already created in CADWOLF to plot it. This isn't particularly useful unless you're comparing it to something, but you can edit it, enter data here, and it's solved automatically by CADWOLF. One particular use case could be that you've got some data and you want to compare it to set expectations. Going to another option that's available for all chart types, we look at the chart format. In this section, you can change the title and subtitle, as well as hide or display them. You can change the size of the chart itself, and you can adjust the legend. So the legend is obviously the display of data at the top, bottom, left, or right of the plot. Here you can turn the legend on or off. You can change if it's horizontal or vertical, as well as any offset from any side. You can also add bands to any chart in CADWOLF. To do this, go to the bands option, then add a band to work with, select it, and then edit its properties. As you can see, a band is just a colored section that has a start and end point and is applied to a given axis. So here we've started it at 1 and 2 and applied it to the y-axis and then switched it to an x-axis, so you can see how that's affected. You can change the color as well. As you can see, the way a band is added to the chart and then edited is the same format as data, and as you'll see, that format is followed with lines and with text. To demonstrate this, let's add a line to the chart, give it a value to which it's applied, give it an axis to apply to, and then change its color to black so that we can see it a little bit better. CADWOLF charts can also have text. This can be just regular text, or you can have values of equations in there as well. Select the chart text option, add a text box, select it. As you can see, it's already appeared with default text and in a default position. You can change the location of this text to wherever you want it to appear on the chart. The values entered are in relation to the top left corner of the chart and are in pixels. You can change the text itself to be more just simple text to give sort of a narrative as to what the chart is showing, or this can also hold values of equations. To display a value, simply give a pound sign prior to the value itself. Here we want to look at the value at the 0, 0 index of the y variable, and we see that that value is 6. As you can see, you can simply type that same text, the y00, without the pound sign preceding it, and it'll display the text. Now these values that you enter that are preceded by the pound sign will resolve whenever preceding data is updated, just like any other equation will. This is useful in cases where you want to show an R-fit for a curve or something along those lines. So now that we talked about bands, lines, and text, let's go ahead and close the edit window, and you'll see that the chart is recreated on the page itself. One of the options that we have in CADWOLF is that you can click on the menu again in the upper right corner for the chart and display the charts at the full size of the window that you're in. What this lets you do is embed a number of charts into a CADWOLF document that the user can simply see a more detailed image by enlarging it to a full scale. So let's go back and talk about axes for a moment in CADWOLF charts. Before we do that, let's add a second or a third set of data here and give it the value of y2 and make it an array going from 101 to say 110. And let's reopen the edit window. And in our second data set, let's delete the text data we have there and set the value to y2. Now you can see that with the two different valued data sets there, it's really difficult to see the values in the first data set. So what we can do is go over to the y-axis. You can see that there's already one present because each chart is created with a single x and y axis. We add a second one, select it, and then go through and change its appearance to be on the true for the axis opposite value, which puts it on the right hand side. Notice you still can't see it. The reason for that is that although the axis is on the right hand side, there isn't enough room in the chart for you to see it yet. Let's go ahead and give it a label for second axis. And while the chart was recreated, you still don't see it. Let's give our first axis a label as well, and you'll see that that does appear on the left hand side. So the reason the second axis is not appearing is there simply isn't room for it, like we said. So we go into the chart format option, and for the margin on the right hand side, we can change its value to something like 75 or 100, like is the default value on the left side for the chart. This just adds space on the chart on the right side. So you can see there's the axis there. There are no values present for the axis yet because there's no data on that axis. So even when we widen it to 100, you don't actually see the axis yet. So let's set it back to 75, and then let's go and put some data on that axis. We'll go back into our data window, select our second data set, and under the data tab, we click for the axis 1. So the chart is remade. You can see that second data set is now on the second axis. The values are present, and you can see both of the data sets much more clearly. Having a second or third axis is something that's pretty common in most engineering charts. So it's whether it's data, text, lines, or bands, the process in CADWOLF is the same. You simply add the item you want to have in the chart and then edit its properties. By following these steps, you can create bar charts, pie charts, donut charts, as well as more complicated things like heat maps and bubble charts. Now we have tutorials for each one of these types of charts separately, and the options that are specific to each one are gone over in those tutorials themselves. We also have combination charts, which allows you to have bars, pies, and line charts all on the same chart, following the same data. For most charts, you can also output a JPEG if you want to have it downloaded. In addition to using charts just on the document, we have a separate plots module. In this module, you can list the charts in any document, access them in the full screen, and you have limited interaction with them. This is what the standard plot module view looks like. Going back to a document that, as you can see, has a number of bar and column charts embedded within it, we can simply copy the URL for that document, go back over to the plot module, paste it there, and hit enter. And we're given a list of the titles of all of the charts on that page. Clicking on one opens up the chart in the plot module. So as you can see, it's just the plot itself. There's none of the rest of the document. You can take this URL and send it to a user if you want them to just look at the document. They'll have limited interactivity with it, but they won't be able to actually change any of the data to be saved or anything like that. Well, that's it for the tutorial on 2D charts and plots. There are tutorials for all of the different types of charts, and they cover the specifics for what's available for each one. To keep up on the latest on tutorials and other things, follow us on Facebook and on Twitter.